What's going on, YouTube? This is Jim Afanis, and I want to talk to you guys about Hell in a Cell 2015. Now, as you guys know, I am a huge John Cena fan, and I'm going to talk about him and every single other match along with my impressions. The pre-show started off with a pretty weird 3 versus 3 match, and I gotta admit, I hate it when the WWE does this. They always take a couple small feuds that really don't mean a whole lot, put all the guys on one team versus all the guys on the other team. 99.9% of the time, the faces win. They all do their finisher on one person from the losing team, or from the enemy evil, the evil heel team, and the crowd goes home happy. And unfortunately, the same thing happened again. Dolph Ziggler, Cesaro, and Neville went up against Sheamus, Rusev, and King Barrett. And it was about as uneventful as you possibly think it could have been. It did nothing to progress any of their storylines whatsoever. Cesaro did come off looking incredibly strong. And if you guys remember, about a year ago, maybe like mid-14 actually, Cesaro was really gaining a lot of momentum. A lot. And they kind of dropped it. They made him give up his Cesaro swing. They called him the King of Swing. If you recall, for about 5 minutes, he was a Paul Heyman guy. And they dropped all that, and he just kind of went off and kind of fell off in mid-card. But he's an amazing athlete, and he's amazing on the microphone. And it's clear he's ready to bust up to that next level. Ziggler looks good as usual, but due to that Rusev storyline with Lana and Summer Rae, it just kind of all fell apart. Obviously, Rusev getting engaged to Lana in real life totally blew up that storyline. So, and obviously, King of the Ring, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, King of the Ring is the mark of death in this company. Where the hell is Bad News Barrett been? He's gone, right? We got King Barrett, who does what? Eats a bunch of finishers at the end of a pre-show match? Come on, man. Moving on to the card proper. We started off with the John Cena Open Challenge. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this Open Challenge thing. I understand that the WWE tries to give the United States title some merit by having a main star hold the belt. And obviously the little bit of the feud that went on between Seth Rollins and John Cena for the United States Championship definitely raised its stock. However, there wasn't a real true feud in this. It was just John Cena issuing these open challenges, which on paper sounds amazing that the belt is always up for grabs, right? But in reality, it just led to a bunch of meaningless matches every week where John Cena crushed the competition. And yes, he did go up against some really tough competition. And they talked about it during the show. You know, like your Cesaros, your Kevin Owens was on the card at one point. Rusev, I believe, went for it. Dolph Ziggler went for it. Sheamus might have. I don't remember. It was basically just a smorgasbord of A-listers going up, getting squashed, and moving on. And so when they started off with another open challenge, I'm like, here we go. And who comes out? First, Jack Swagger's music hits with Zeb Coulter coming out. And I'm like, oh, here we go, right? But then, out of nowhere, Alberto Del Rio re-emerges. Nuts. Now, I had heard rumors that he was coming back, and I think I've told you guys, I don't really follow the rags anymore because I just want to be surprised when the show comes out. I had heard rumors that he was going to be coming back, and he did. Him teaming up with Zeb Coulter is an amazing idea. One, you got Zeb Coulter, who's this real American, who's very, pro, like, white Caucasian, teaming up with Alberto Del Rio, clearly of Hispanic descent. So there's that weird combination there. I like that. And then Alberto Del Rio leaving in the way he did, getting fired, getting future endeavored, kind of coming back with a vengeance, and winning the United States Championship. So yes, clearly John Cena lost. It was unfortunate. He feigned a leg injury throughout. I thought that would have more of a part with it, but Alberto actually won clean just with a super kick. John Cena was down on his knees and he just ate a super kick. It was a clean win. So I'm not sad that John Cena dropped the strap. I'd heard rumors again that he was going to be taking some time off. I like what he was trying to do, or at least what WWE was trying to do with the United States Championship, but I'd like to see John Cena come back and feud with somebody more meaningful. Actually, feud with anyone from a week-to-week basis. I'm not sure where this is going to go with him now. If he's taking some time off, that might be a good thing for him to come back, and surprise everyone in a couple pay-per-views or something. I wouldn't mind. As much as I love Cena, people argue about his character being stale or not stale. The United States Championship phase of his career is stale. I'll just say that. I'm a huge fan of the 5 Moves of Dooms. If he wants to do it every single night, I would love it. Obviously, he's my man. But anyways, Alberto Del Rio wins the United States Championship. Then we moved on to the match of the night. The match of the night. Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt. Now, the feud started long ago, back at Money in the Bank, when Bray Wyatt interfered and Roman Reigns, seconds away from winning the Money in the Bank contract. Sheamus went on to win that. Still hasn't cashed it in yet, by the way. This match between Roman and Bray has been ongoing for months, where they keep trying to one-up each other. Dean Ambrose helped out Roman. The Wyatt family helped out Bray Wyatt. They were kind of building up. They'd fight. There'd be some cheap shots here or there. One person would win, the other person would win. It was just never a clear fight. So Hell in a Cell makes a perfect kind of definitive end to this. You eliminate all the noise. You have the 2 guys go in the ring. 1 guy walks out. This match was brutal. That's actually my note. Brutal. You had kendo sticks. You had chairs. And I'm talking like kendo sticks wedged in the actual cage. Chairs wedged into the cage. There were a ton of slams, a ton of bombs, really hard-hitting, impactful wrestling. Then you had these table spots. Bray Wyatt taking an apron, kind of like one of his shoulder neck slam things, dropping Roman Reigns, standing on the apron, down through the table on the surface of the floor outside the ring. Amazing spot. Then Roman Reigns power bombs Bray Wyatt through a table inside the ring, then spears him on the apron outside the other corner of the ring. It was incredible. There was so much carnage in that match, and I loved it. I loved the intensity of it. I love where it came from, and Roman Reigns wins. What I didn't like, Bray Wyatt once again comes off as a loser. This guy cannot get a break. I mean, name a major feud that Bray Wyatt has been in since ever that he has won. There aren't any. He doesn't win. He went up against Taker. He's gone up against Roman Reigns. He's gone up against John Cena. He's gone up against... the guy can't win. So, man, I don't know. I love Bray Wyatt. I love his stock. I'll get back to him at the end of the show. But in this particular feud, it was amazing. Roman Reigns needs to go off and do something else. Bray Wyatt clearly has got something else going on, so I'm happy for that. We'll have to see what happens next for both these guys, but by far, the event of the night. From here on out, downhill. You had the New Day throwing down against the Dudley Boyz for the tag team's titles. They had Trombone Gate, which is actually an entertaining portion. Xavier Woods has been coming out playing the trombone, and the trombone was broken, so they brought out the broken trombone. And when the ref wasn't looking, Kofi Kingston threw the trombone to Dudley and then feigns injury. I thought they were going to call the match on a disqualification, but luckily the ref said, no, I didn't see the hit. There was no hit. Let them continue fighting. Then it turns out that he ends up getting hit in the head with the trombone anyway, and the New Day wins by a cheap win. I love the Dudley Boyz, okay? I mean, I'm an old school wrestler. I've been watching wrestling since I was this big, okay? This feud has gone on way too long, okay? If they were going to win and be the 10-time tag team champions, it should have happened a while ago. Get our cheap pop, reminisce of the whole Road Dogg, Badass Billy Gunn, New Age Outlaws, where they came back and won the straps for a while. That would have been cool, but they haven't. It's gone on way too long at this point. There is no momentum. There's no Where are all these other amazing tag teams at? Why aren't they getting fight after fight after fight after fight? The Dudley Boyz cannot get it done. And it does show merit for what the New Day has become. And it does show the New Day is a legitimate team. And I like that. I think that's great because all those guys' careers were stale. Then they became the New Day, and they've turned it into this monster thing, and everybody loves it. So for them to keep the gold a little bit longer and to continue pushing that like heel brand that they have, where they're kind of pseudo good guys, but they're really dicks, I love that. So Dudley Boyz, you guys got to need to move on and do something else. Let the New Day get in. Let's get some of these other tag teams in here, and let's try to beef up the division a little bit more because Dudley and the Dudley Boyz are just not getting it done. Then you had a rematch of the Divas belt, Nikki Bella versus Charlotte. They had a stipulation in this match that no one was allowed at ringside because they still try to do this twin magic thing, even though Nikki and Brie look nothing alike. So there's a stipulation, no one was allowed at the ring. This match had some really good spots because of Nikki, and I have nothing against Charlotte. I know her history of her coming up the ranks, obviously her father being Ric Flair, and you know that lineage there and everything, and her working her way up, and it was emotional for her to finally reach the top and get the belt and all that great stuff. But this match seems so forced. That's the note I wrote. The spots felt forced. There were a lot of times where it was very clear like they were both getting ready to set up for a move. And you had these awkward pauses. There was one particular moment in the match where Charlotte went and stood up on the top rope and like turned her back to Nikki. So she was like facing out towards the crowd. And then Nikki came up and they were trying to like manipulate around each other. It looked like Nikki was sticking her nose in Charlotte's ass. It was weird. Then Charlotte did this weird flip thing. They said it was a reversal. It looked like they just collapsed. I thought Charlotte broke her ankle. But they said, oh, wow, what a great move by Charlotte. And then she went on to beat Nikki in one of her, figure eights or whatever it was. It was just weird. It was a weird match. And I'm like, where's this going? I mean, Nikki really propelled the Divas division to a new level. And whether it was Nikki individually or Stephanie or this Divas Revolution, whatever you want to call it, the Divas actually mattered at some point, but this particular match was reminiscent of like the Divas 2 or 3 years ago, where it was just not fun. It wasn't exciting. And then after the match is over and Charlotte wins, Paige comes running down with Becky Lynch, and Paige is like celebrating and they're all happy. I'm like, wait, wasn't like 2 or 3 weeks ago Paige like knocking out Charlotte, telling her like, you're a bitch and that's my belt and why are we all friends together? And we've just fallen back into our old way with Divas. I know I said in my last WWE pay-per-view discussion the Divas Revolution was dead. Here we are a month later and it's now 12 feet under the ground, not just 6. They need to figure that out really quickly because that match was really bad. There's a lot of amazing Divas talent. A lot of amazing Divas talent coming up through the ranks that are in NXT and that are on the current roster. And they really need to be put in better angles that really propels that because that division was awesome for about 2 months. And ever since then, it has absolutely tanked. Then you had Seth Rollins versus the Demon Kane. If Seth won, obviously he'd keep his belt. If the belt was on the line, Kane could win that. But if the other stipulation was if Seth won, then normal Kane had to give up his position as the director of operations. The first thing that clued me into this match was going to suck was there was no steel, there was no cell. It's Hell in a Cell. Why is there no cell? Why? I mean, I think every match in Hell in a Cell should be in a cell, honestly. But okay, you want to only do 1 or 2, that's fine. But this match, where Seth and Kane hate each other, and Kane has this split evil personality, the Demon Kane, who wants to get revenge on Seth for all the crap that Seth put Kane through and messing up his ankle, and how Seth wants to prove that he's the definitive, the man, and he deserves a statue. And then you just have this normal match. What the hell? It was so bad. So trying to get that out of the way and just focusing on the action. Rollins dominated early. There's a really bad botched powerbomb through the Spanish announce table. So the Spanish announce table, thankfully, it tipped over. It didn't get shattered this time. Seth went to put Kane through a powerbomb and was off center, and the table just, Kane landed on the table, and then it just, and fell on its side. It was horrendous. It was like, what? Really, really bad. There was a couple flying knees that Seth did that were 5 or 6 inches away from Kane's face, like way past his face, wasn't even close. And then when Kane was on the ropes and Seth was going to finish it off, does he do his pedigree? No. He does tribute to Eddie Guerrero and starts doing frog splashes. I'm like, okay, I know Seth Rollins is a high flyer. And some of his earlier matches when he was part of the Shield and he was going up against the, the kind of pseudo authority with Triple H and all that stuff, that was amazing. There were some amazing spots where he would fly off like over the entryway, like players coming in out of arena, like that tunnel. He was standing on the top. He would jump off of that. He climbed up the Jumbotron and was like doing elbows off of that. I mean, the guy, no doubt about it, he is an amazing technical wrestler. He's an amazing high flyer. I know the botch thing doesn't really make sense with what I just said, but he had an off night. That's all I could think. But, he kind of earned the pedigree from Triple H. He did ultimately finish off Kane with the pedigree, but the frog splash just felt really, really weird. What I didn't like about this was that Kane came off very weak. And for the last month or so, Kane has been branded as this monster heel, very similar to Mark Henry in the Hall of Pain. And I didn't really feel it from this pay-per-view. And I was like, man, that kind of sucks because Kane is supposed to be this ruthless man. Now, is he the right person to win the title right now? I don't know if that's true or not. So in that sense, I could say maybe he didn't deserve to win the title. But at the same time, having a guy with a split personality with the title would have been pretty damn cool. And we really are tired of Seth Rollins, okay? He's been on the top since the days of the Shield. It's time to cycle somebody out and put somebody back up top where they belong, right? Anyways, Kane gets buried. I don't know what that was about. It didn't really do Seth any good to win that match. It didn't do Kane any good to lose that match. So, again, this goes back to this card overall. It was just like an episode of Raw. Nothing really progressed in the storyline. Next up was a super abbreviated Intercontinental Championship match between KO, Kevin Owens, and Ryback. And what a dry, boring match. I think it lasted about 4 minutes. There was no motivation for the match at all. Everybody's obviously hyped up for Brock Lesnar and Undertaker. We just had to endure, let me look at my notes again. Just two dry matches prior, 3 dry matches. New Day, the Divas, and then Seth and Demon Kane. We had to endure 3 dry matches. Then this match, people were booing, people were not cheering, people were not clapping. The Staples Center practically died for about 5 minutes. And it was just a regular boring match. Kevin Owens wins. Ryback fades into obscurity. He needs to go do something else. This Intercontinental title needs a new feud ASAP. Boring match. I don't know how to say it any other way. And I love both those guys a lot. I've really gotten a lot of respect for Kevin Owens in the last couple months. And Ryback has always been, to me, one of the coolest gorilla juice heads that I've ever met. Lastly, the main event. Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker, round 3. I am glad that this feud is over because it's time for both of these guys to move on. Brock to move on to bigger and better things, and Undertaker to retire. Of course, they mentioned that this is we're leading up to the 25th anniversary of The Undertaker. He debuted in SummerSlam 1990, just to give you an idea of how old this guy is and how long he's been around. He takes off his hat, and his hat was too tight, and he had this red band across his forehead. If you guys watch football and you know Peyton Manning, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It just looks so stupid. It was so hard to take him as this menacing guy with this dopey red line on his forehead. I'm like, come on, man. Wear a looser hat, will you? Anyways, the line thankfully wore off. Brock gets busted open almost immediately into the match. Taker gets busted open later. It was a bloodbath. There were about 4 times that the cut man came over and was toweling these guys off because they were just dripping. It was like Brock Lesnar looked like a freaking zombie. Towards the end of the match, the cuts did dry up and most of the sweat was just kind of running the blood off. But man, oh man, not for the squeamish at all. Really nasty chair shots, really nasty Irish whips by both guys into the cage. And I love this. I love the Hell in the Cell when they slam into the cell and you hear the rattle of the chain link fence all the way around the perimeter. That's just so cool to me. I mean, just a lot of impact. But it was very slow paced. I compare that to what I still maintain, the match of the night between Roman and Bray Wyatt. And that match had a lot more tempo to it. This one was very, very slow, methodical. Hit a guy with a chair, they both stagger for a minute. Punch a guy, they both stagger for a minute. I counted 3 suplexes and 3 F5s to 1 tombstone and 1 chokeslam. Definitely a slower pace. Towards the end of the match, after blood and guts were spewed everywhere, it was clear that they were really leaning away from Brock doing any kind of power moves to Undertaker. There's no body slams. Brock is notorious for the Suplex City bitches, and he only pulled off 3 of them. Very limited on the F5s. It was mostly chair shots, punches, and Irish whips. Towards the end of the match, Brock noticed, and I didn't notice it beforehand, so that was actually really cool how they worked that in there. There was a rip in the ring, and he rips the ring and pulls out the foam and exposes the wood underneath the ring, which is, like pulling the mat back outside the ring and hitting a guy in the cement. And clearly, with evil intentions, he's going to put Triple H through there. Now, I had hoped he was going to actually slam Undertaker. I said Triple H a second ago. I meant Undertaker. I was hoping he would have actually just blasted him through the ring. He goes to finish off Undertaker, and Undertaker pops up just like Undertaker does, vintage Taker. Chokeslams Brock Lesnar through the wood. Tombstones Brock Lesnar through the wood. I say through, I mean on it. Brock will not go down. Undertaker's like, what do I got to do? Brock Lesnar's leaning back. Undertaker does he's going to finish it off. And Brock Lesnar low blows Undertaker. The ball shot heard around the world. Drops Undertaker to his knees. Brock stands up. F5's Undertaker on the wood, exposed, and wins. Now, that's important for a couple reasons. One, Brock Lesnar is now a heel again. He's a definitive heel, and that's where he belongs. He is not a face. He should not be branded as a face. Now, he could still be cheered for as a heel, and he was. But when Undertaker started doing these low blows, which was very uncharacteristic of Taker, by the way, Brock came off as a face. By Brock getting revenge, or whatever you want to call it, and finishing Undertaker dirty, he has now cemented himself once again as a heel where he belongs. Out of the whole point of the match, that was the most important element of it by far. Undertaker, I don't know where his career is going. I think he's getting ready to retire. Then all of a sudden the lights turn off. Bray Wyatt returns with the whole family. So you got all the crew back. You got the Braun Strowman. You got the Bray... What's his name? Eric Rowan and the other guy. Who's the other guy? Luke Harper. He's the one who just came back. So him and also the Bray, all 4 of them, they circle the ring, beat the snot out of the Undertaker, and then carry him off like Jesus Christ pose. I don't know what it means. The show ended with that. I did notice, by the way, Bray Wyatt had a black eye. So Roman, you got to quit hitting him so hard, brother. Weird ending. I don't know where this is going. Taker really needs to retire. Are they going to turn him into an idol? Are they going to encapsulate him like they did Han Solo? I got no idea. Weird ending to the match. Like I said, the real element, the real important thing, Brock redefined and cements himself as a heel where he belongs. Overall, if it was not for that match featuring my man Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt, this card would have gotten a 2 out of 10. But because Roman and Bray stole the damn show, I'll give this pay-per-view a 4 out of 10. I was highly disappointed with where everything went. It felt like an episode of Raw. There weren't any pay-per-view spots, minus the amazing match that Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt had, minus that amazing ending with Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. Everything else was exactly as you would expect on an episode of Raw. Storylines were not propelled in any direction. It was very stagnant, and you could have called this pay-per-view 50 miles away. The wrestling was sloppy, the direction was sloppy, and it leaves characters in a state of limbo where we're going to get a lot of really hard reboots, I hope, starting tomorrow night on Raw with some of these storylines that have gone on way too long, but we will find out. So unfortunately, minus a one match and about a little iota of another match, Hell in a Cell 2015 did not deliver. That's my thoughts on the pay-per-view. I want to hear from you guys. So please do me a favor, comment, rate, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about Hell in a Cell 2015. And as always, I'll see you guys on the other side.